What's the problem we're trying to fix? That's the question. We can be sure that no organization has a business problem called we don't have a process architecture, or we don't have enough process models, or we don't have a really complex diagram about process performance. And yet, we can still easily find ourselves developing complex artifacts that have little relevance to real business problems. They make management harder and more complex. But hey, it's a nice diagram. No, it's a self-licking ice cream cone. That's something that has few, if any, benefits and exists primarily to justify its own ongoing existence. In this video, I want to discuss some guardrails that will keep us on track and help us to avoid investing in self-licking ice cream cones. So a self-licking ice cream cone is something that is very clever, but essentially useless. Something that looks good, looks like it should be useful, but in a practical sense makes no difference at all, might even make life more difficult. And in our process world, it's so easy for us to develop diagrams and artifacts, constructs, architectures that might look useful, but actually they're making management more difficult, more complicated. They're making it more difficult for us to make good quality decisions. They're not helping, they're hindering management. And that's not what we're trying to do in process-based management. We want to make it simpler and easier to make continuous high-quality decisions about management and the delivery of value to our customers and other stakeholders. So we need to avoid self-licking ice cream cones, of course. What I want to do is just go through quickly each of these 6 examples of where we could develop a self-licking ice cream cone, and then we'll talk later about how we might avoid that. So the architecture of despair. Of course, the enterprise process architecture is fundamental to process-based management. It's what we use to guide our horizontal cross-functional management. So we need to have a process architecture. And when I'm doing a process architecture, I hope you as well, you would start at the top, literally with strategy, and work down from there. But there is a way of doing it from the bottom up. We're doing something from the bottom up. We'll talk in a moment about whether it's a process architecture. But you go around to each of the business units, the departments, and you make a list of all the things they do. And you think of those as low-level processes. And then you've got hundreds or maybe thousands of them. And you do some kind of affinity mapping and you aggregate them upwards. And you'll end up with something that you could say looks like a process architecture. But its relationship to strategy would be random, wouldn't it? Some aspects of it might reflect strategy seemingly, but that's just happy circumstance. It's not deliberate. So you've got something that looks like a process architecture. It's a hierarchical set of processes, but really, I don't think it's a process architecture. I think it's a self-licking ice cream cone because it doesn't help us understand how we execute strategy. It's created in a totally different way and gives us something that's unrelated to the way in which we create, accumulate, and deliver value across the organization to execute strategy. So that's the architecture of despair. It's a self-licking ice cream cone. There are many videos in this series that are about process KPIs and KPI targets and performance frameworks and the delivery of value, because that's what process-based management's all about. The purpose of process is performance, and we need process KPIs. Now, it is possible to end up with this performance framework, this set of KPIs that look good, and they look like they might be usefully measuring the performance of processes, but perhaps they're not. If we selected the wrong KPIs or the wrong targets for the KPIs, or we just picked KPIs that already existed in the functional list of KPIs that we developed when we did the strategy rollout, then we're not measuring process performance at all. These are not process KPIs. They're KPIs, but for something else. So we could actually build a very nice-looking framework of process performance management with lots of KPIs built in there and lots of targets, and it might look good, but it's not a tool for effectively managing the performance of processes. It's you guessed it, a self-licking ice cream cone. Process improvement projects are supposed to improve processes. There's a clue in the name. But not every PIP does that. You've probably been involved in some. Maybe you even run some that didn't actually deliver value. I confess to having done that. So what's happening there? Well, any time a PIP makes more recommendations than it does changes, it hasn't been successful. And that might be because you're not using a good methodology, or you didn't have the right data or the right people in the room, or maybe you thought, well, this is a process improvement project and we're supposed to come up with recommendations, so we better do that, and you came up with 5 recommendations for change, which sounded okay, but there was no real business case, there was no impact of doing it or not doing it, so it won't get done. So we need to be very careful when we're going through our process improvement projects that we're working in the real world and we're coming up with improvements that will make a difference and that people will want to do and want to do them as soon as possible. So a PIP that doesn't is, you've got it, a self-licking ice cream cone. The process owner role is the linchpin of process-based management. It's how we enable cross-functional management. And it's got to work and work well. And sometimes it starts out okay, but a little while later, the process owners really aren't doing much. And perhaps they want to, but they're not able to. And things just haven't been set up properly. It's kind of not been designed for success. And it might be that the process owner doesn't have time, doesn't have the resources, doesn't have the management or executive support. Maybe the office of BPM is too busy to help them. But for whatever reason, we've set up process owners and we've kind of kicked them off and wished them well, and it worked okay for a while and now it's not. But it looks good. We've got a nice process governance model. We've got process owner role descriptions and we've got lots of documentation about it. We might have even created some process models, but processes are not being governed. Cross-functional management's not happening. Perhaps we tried to do too much at the start. Rather than having 2 or 3 process owners to start with, maybe we started off with 30 or 40. And it's not that that can't work, but gee, it's a lot harder. So for whatever reason, our whole process governance model isn't working. And it's not so much a model for how we're going to manage in that horizontal direction. It's you guessed it, self-licking ice cream cone. The OPPI is the Office for the Prevention of Process Improvement, which nobody starts out trying to set up. And they certainly don't want an SLICC, self-licking ice cream cone, OPPI. A slick OPPI sounds like something you might want to have, isn't it? Until you understand what the acronyms mean. So the OPPI comes about when we set up the Office of BPM, Centre of Excellence, whatever it's called, and we tell them that they do all of the process work. Well, as soon as you say that, as soon as you set up that office to do all of the work, then obviously you're going to create a bottleneck. If they're successful, they're going to be asked by lots of people to come and help, but we'll be there in 6 months because we're busy, and then the whole process-based management initiative gets a bad name because nothing's happening. So we don't want a slick OPPI. We want a genuine process centre of excellence, or an office of BPM that's working and is building capability across the organisation. So our last example here, lost luggage processes. Now, of course, luggage gets lost. We don't work in perfect systems, so things will go wrong. And when it's lost, we need to find it. And we need to get better at finding it. But perhaps we might want to also think about getting better at not losing it. So a lost luggage process is a process that we've done a lot of work on to really improve, and we're really good at it, but it's actually fixing a problem that we caused, and it shouldn't have happened in the first place. So, we don't want to get good at finding lost luggage. We want to get good at not losing it. And airlines and airport and baggage handling operations do it very well, don't they? And you can kind of think sometimes at the end of the week in the lost luggage office, it's high fives all round because we met our targets, 98% of lost luggage and returned to the traveller within 10 hours, or whatever it is. And it might be tempting to think, gee, we could get even better at finding lost luggage if we had more lost luggage because we get more practice. I know they don't do that, but you know what I mean. So what we want to do is make sure that we're not getting good at fixing a problem that shouldn't exist in the first place, because that's a lost luggage process or a self-licking ice cream cone. So lots of opportunities for us to build these self-licking ice cream cones, and that's a bit demoralizing, isn't it? Because that's not what we want to do. We want to be improving management, improving outcomes, improving the quality of the delivery of our processes in the organisation, not wasting time on things that are making life more difficult. So how do we get around that? Well, there is a solution, and I think it's relatively straightforward, actually. I think what we need to do is make sure that we apply all of our process management and improvement thinking to the processes of process management and process improvement. We need to take our own advice. So the process of process management and process improvement, they should be the best examples we have of good process management. I mean, that would make sense, wouldn't it? If we want to be credible out there with those people to whom we're evangelizing process-based management, we better have some good examples of what happens when you manage processes. So we need to demand authenticity of our whole process-based management operation. Think about the inverse. Think about this. What if the process of process management and improvement was the best process in your organisation? The thing that your organisation was best at, was most efficient and effective at, was improving all of its other processes. No self-licking ice cream cones in there. It would have a profound effect, wouldn't it? What would that do in your organisation?